When you have a dream, you expect the journey to make sense. You envision a clear path, peace of mind, and continuous forward progress. Then you start moving. You get slapped around. You face criticism, opposition, and a storm of unexpected problems that hit you squarely in the jaw. The default instinct is to retreat. You want to turn around, run with everybody else, and fall back to your safety net while questioning if any of this makes sense. You complain and feel inadequate. It is incredibly easy to point to external circumstances when this happens. People routinely blame their stalled progress on a lack of education, a poor background, or missing financial capital. These are surface symptoms. In our ambition model, resources and time feed a central processor, your core belief engine. But without self-belief, this engine critically fails. When core belief drops out, downstream output nodes for logic, support, and strategy shut down entirely. Self-belief serves as the mechanical prerequisite determining whether a human system survives its environment. To fix this failure point, you have to audit your thoughts. You must actively recognize the filter of victimhood you are using to view the world before you can remove it. Step 1 is a daily, deliberate decision to confront hardship. This animated model of cognitive expansion demonstrates the concept. By willingly stepping out of your comfort zone, you physically stretch your mind's capacity, pulling a rigid structure into a highly complex state. Once the mind is stretched by adversity, it permanently expands. External pressures fail to compress it back to its original dimensions because the new internal structure holds rigid. Step 2 requires you to actively silence the noise. You have to kill the internal conversation of doubt and block out the external critics telling you it is impossible. You then reframe the remaining struggle. View this pain as a crucible designed specifically to refine you, rebuild you, and burn away your old habits. Executing these 2 steps stops your mind from actively sabotaging your efforts. You clear the psychological ground required to actually generate forward momentum. With the internal noise quieted, we hit a divergence point. How you evaluate the difficult requirements of your goal dictates whether you advance or stall. People who fail constantly negotiate the price. They look at the exhausting work, the time away from family, and the inevitable pain, and they hesitate. A positive thinker operates on a completely different mechanism. This scale illustrates the problem of negotiating the price. The massive block representing the cost of success completely outweighs the tiny block representing the goal. But watch the mechanical shift when you evaluate worth instead of price. The goal transforms into its actual worth to your life. It drastically expands in size, instantly and permanently tipping the scale in its favor. The hesitation stops. Once the worth is locked in, you activate urgency. You have exactly 86,400 seconds in a day. It is a strict, non-renewable resource. If you are casual about how you spend those seconds, you will become a casualty of your circumstances. You have to take massive, rapid action through tiny, consistent baby steps every single day. Belief without calculated urgency is merely a wish. Matching the high perceived worth of your goal with daily, immediate action is the true engine of unstoppable momentum. This momentum triggers a final psychological shift. You stop reacting to the world like a passive observer and step up as the lead character, dictating the terms of your own life. The external environment yields to a person who flat out refuses to be denied. When you commit fully, you put yourself in an entirely different zone of execution. At the highest echelons of success, the separating factor shifts. This graph tracking long-term performance shows that inherent skill eventually plateaus, but stamina rises continuously, eventually crossing a high threshold marked unbreakable. Reaching that unbreakable threshold means past failures, bankruptcies, and rejections stop acting as damage. They become your armor. You reach a point where you realize you have fought too hard and too long to be broken now. Sustaining this level of endurance makes you an outlier who breaks the cycle of generational struggle. By outlasting the hardships that forced previous generations to retreat, you establish a new foundation that permanently alters your family's trajectory. The entire architecture of success does not rely on luck, background, or external validation. It begins and ends with the unwavering mechanical decision to bet everything on yourself.